found is that there are 21 main happiness habits, and they fall into 7 main categories. And I want to go through these with both of you and with everyone listening. And as I go through these 7 main categories, I want you to be thinking, where am I the weakest? Because wherever you're the weakest, that's your Achilles heel, and that's where you want to focus.
Hey everybody, our mission here at the Heart Coherence Collaborative is to get people in touch with the healing power of the heart.
And we really need your help. Right now, only 1% of viewers subscribe. We are aiming to take that number to 6%.
The reason why we want to do that is the more people that subscribe, the more people in the world can learn the magical practice of heart coherence.
So please, help us out. If you've ever listened, if you love this message, please just take a moment to subscribe.
Thank you so much.
We love you.
Welcome everyone to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. We are very honored today to have Marci Shimoff joining us, who is no stranger to heart coherence. She's a heart happiness expert. She's also best-selling author, one of the most best-selling author women in nonfiction history, which is actually mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So we are very excited to talk to you today because your work is magical. So thank you for being here with us.
I'm so honored and happy to get to be here. It's really, I love what you're doing with the Heart Coherence Challenge. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So I would love to hear you just tell us your general story. You're the happy for no reason woman. So were you born happy? Tell us.
You know, I'm always asked, you know, was I born happy? It's a great question. The answer is absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I was born depressed. I came out of the womb with existential angst. I was an unhappy kid. All the other kids were playing and I was worrying about the suffering in the world. And, you know, I had a great family and a great circumstances, but I think I probably had some ancestral trauma that I was maybe carrying. And I just had a dark cloud around me. And my solution to unhappiness when I was a kid was something called sugar.
Oh.
I became a sugar addict. I could eat a carton of ice cream to bury that happiness and bury that unhappiness, I should say. And what I found is that it would work for about 20 minutes. I'd feel high and then I would feel not great. By the time I was in high school, I was about 35 pounds overweight. So it just kind of kept going, just feeling, life felt crummy, to be honest. And so when I was in my 20s, I set goals for myself and I figured that's how I'll get happy. I'll reach those goals and then I'll really be happy. And I had 5 of them and I'll share them with you because I think people can relate to these. I wanted to have a successful career helping people, a wonderful husband or life partner, fabulous friends, a comfortable home, and the equivalent of Halle Berry's body. Now I got 4 out of the 5. I do not have Halle Berry's body, but I have a healthy body for which I'm very, very grateful. And I worked super hard to get all my ducks in a row so I could finally be happy. And I had a turning point moment. It was in 1998. I had 3 books in the top 5 on the New York Times bestseller list at the same time. I had just finished giving a speech to 8,000 women, and I had autographed 5,432 books. You know, on one hand, I felt like an author rock star. My client had a massage therapist there to massage my hand so I could keep on signing. But on the other hand, after I finished autographing that last book, I went up to my hotel room, which was the penthouse suite that my client had gotten for me. And I walked over to these huge windows overlooking this beautiful lake. I took in the view and I turned around and I collapsed onto the bed and I burst into tears. And I burst into tears because I realized I had everything that I had worked so hard to get. And I still felt that emptiness inside that I had as a kid. And I remember thinking, what's next? What could I possibly do next to be happy? And I realized I couldn't fool myself into thinking that just that next gold ring was going to do it for me. because I realized that, yeah, I'd be happier for a while after I accomplished something, but it would go away, and then I'd have to run after the next thing. And it was just a no-win race. And so at that moment, I decided I was going to figure this thing out. How could you really be happy in a way that lasts, that's real? And so I started interviewing all of the experts on happiness, all of the top researchers and all. And I started interviewing unconditionally happy people. I interviewed 100 unconditionally happy people, people who were happy no matter what. And I started doing what they did. And I started doing what the researchers told me to do. And it worked. I was shocked, but it actually worked. I would say that in a fairly short period of time, I became happier and happier and happier. I would say that back then, before I started, I was probably a D in happiness. I was kind of failing if you were giving me a grade. Now I'm an A. And that's not to say that I'm not still a work in progress, because I absolutely am. I think we all are our whole lives, but there is a deep happiness inside that I never ever thought was even possible. And now I've shared this with millions of people, and I know it's possible for anybody.
What are the core elements of like what makes us happy? Like what should we be focusing on to try to achieve happiness?
Yeah. So, well, first, let me tell you a little tiny bit of research that I think for me, like made everything click for me. And that is that we all have a happiness set point. And it's like a thermostat setting. And so no matter what happens, whether it's good or bad, we will tend to return to our thermostat setting unless we do something consciously to change it. So how's this happiness thermostat set? It's got 3 elements to it. The first is genetic. So it's our genes, and that's 50% of our happiness set point. You're born with it. So, I was not born with the happy genes. Now, if you're listening and you were also not born with the happy genes, don't despair. I'm going to tell you some good news about that genetic part in a minute. It's 10% your circumstances. Now, notice what a tiny, tiny piece of the pie that is, 10%. And yet that's what most people spend all their energy trying to fix the circumstances of their life so they can be happy. But it's such a tiny piece of the equation. The other 40% is our habits of thoughts and behavior. And that's what we can really change to raise our set point. Now, I'm going to take it a step further and say that 50% that's genetic, that part where I thought, oh my God, I'm screwed because if I don't have that. Scientists in the field of epigenetics who study our DNA and our genes, like Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote the biology.
We love Bruce.
We love Bruce.
We love Bruce.
So they will say that genetic piece can be influenced or changed by changing our habits, which means that 90% now of our happiness set point can be influenced by our habits. I say, hallelujah, that is freedom. That means it doesn't matter what your background is, what happiness you've had in the past, you can change some specific habits and raise your happiness set point. And, as far as I'm concerned, this should be taught in all the schools. My God, the main thing that we all want, everybody always wants throughout history, throughout any culture, is happiness. We know how to get it. Let's teach it to our kids.
You can work for happiness. It's amazing.
Yeah. So first of all, I'd love to hear you talk about the 7 ingredients of happiness.
Yes.
What
I found is that there are 21 main happiness habits. And they fall into 7 main categories. And I want to go through these with both of you and with everyone listening. And as I go through these 7 main categories, I want you to be thinking, where am I the weakest? Because wherever you're the weakest, that's your Achilles heel, and that's where you want to focus. So I know it's hard for people to remember 7 of anything. So I created a metaphor or an analogy for remembering this. And it's a home, the analogy of the home. I call it your inner home for happiness. So a home has 7 main components. It's got a foundation. It's got 4 corner pillars. It's got a roof, and it's got a garden. And here's how it relates to the 7 main areas of happiness. The foundation is taking responsibility for your life and your happiness. So one of the ways that you know that you're taking responsibility for your life and your happiness is that you're not showing up as a victim in life. And a victim in life, you know you're being a victim when you are in blame, when you're blaming, shaming, or complaining. So if you're stuck, if you tend to be more in a pattern of blaming others, shaming, which is shaming yourself, or complaining about life, then you tend to be more in that victim mode. And what you want to do is learn to be in what I call the victor mode, the mode of empowerment and co-creation. So that's the foundation, is really being empowered. Then there is the 4 pillars of a home. There's the pillar of the mind, our thoughts. Do your thoughts rob you of your happiness? There's the pillar of the heart. Do you live with an open heart? This is all what your 30-day heart coherence challenge is about. And I love it. The heart is such a key point. Do you live with, I've never met a happy person who had a closed heart. Happy people have open hearts. And we can talk more about this after I go through all of these 7, you know, kindness, forgiveness, generosity, consideration, compassion towards others and towards ourselves. So that's the heart. Then there's the body. Do you have the biochemistry of happiness? You know, do you have enough endorphins and serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine? And then there's the pillar of the soul. The pillar of the soul is our sense of being connected to all of life. You know, whether you call it God or the divine or nature or spirit, doesn't matter. Do you feel connected to a oneness of life? Then there's the roof of our home for happiness, and the roof is your purpose or passion in life. Are you living an inspired life, doing what you are here on this planet to be doing? And then finally, there's the garden, and the garden has to do with our relationships. Do you have relationships that nourish and nurture your happiness, or do they drag you down? So those are the 7 areas. I'll review them really quickly so you can identify where you're the weakest. So the foundation is taking responsibility, being empowered rather than a victim. Then there's the pillar of the mind, your thoughts, the pillar of the heart, your love, open-heartedness, the pillar of the body, your biochemistry, the pillar of the soul, your spirit. The roof is your purpose or passion, and the garden is your relationships. So now to put you on the spot, I'm going to start with you first, Leah. What do you think is your weak link in all of those?
I think right now it's stuff with the body. I'm really, there's some physiological things that are my area of focus right now. Some that are out of my control, some that are in my control.
Yes.
So that's focus right now.
I have to tell you, throughout my life, that's where my weak link has been as well, is in the level of the body. And there's some specific wonderful things you can do to help create enough of the serotonin and the oxytocin, the good feeling chemicals to help. So I'll be sure to share some of those today.
Good.
All right, your turn, Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 2 weak areas, and I would say definitely my thoughts, like the mind area, and then my body, and it's interesting that you talked about dopamine, serotonin, because if somebody else had taken me through this, experiment and they said body, and I'm thinking, muscle, like I would be like, no, I'm good. But you said specifically serotonin and dopamine. And that is something that I don't think I have the best natural set points. And that is, I would think, my weakness. And through that lens, that's something I really want to focus on.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for both of you for being so honest and really, it starts with us really honestly and openly looking at where are we the weakest, and then starting with those. So I want to give people practical things to do today. So I know I'll be happy to focus on the thoughts, because that one is one that is a big one for people. I'll be happy to focus on the body. It's another big one. And then of course we're here about heart and the heart coherence. So I'm happy to share about that as well. Does that sound good?
That
Love
sounds
it.
great.
Love it.
Yes.
All right. Should we start on thoughts?
Yes.
Please.
All right. Good. So, and this is the one that drags down, I think, almost everybody in our society, especially, is our thoughts. So the scientists say that we have on average 60,000 thoughts a day. We're very, very busy up here. And on average, 80% of those are negative. It is called the negativity bias. We bias towards the negative, and we inherited this tendency from our caveman ancestors.
Mm.
So it's actually something that's really in the we most of us inherited this, and where our ancestors had to focus on the negatives and remember the negatives in order to survive. But we don't need it in the same ways that they did, and we haven't adapted beyond it. A dear friend of mine, Rick Hansen, Dr. Rick Hansen, who wrote Hardwiring Happiness, he likes to call it the Velcro Teflon syndrome, that our minds are like Velcro for the negative. They just stick to us, but they're like Teflon for the positive. The positives just slide off of us. You know, if you get 10 compliments in a day and 1 criticism, what do you remember at the end of the day?
The criticism.
A criticism. So happy people have reversed this tendency. They Velcro the positives and they Teflon the negatives. And doing that creates new neural pathways in the brain that allows you to actually notice the positives more often, because that's what you're used to. So I'm going to give you a little simple 3-step process that I was taught by neuroscientists to actually create new neural pathways in the brain for the positive. So it's going to sound crazy simple, but it works, okay? So don't dismiss it for its simplicity. The first step is to be on the lookout for the positive. So that means there's so much great out there, but that means that you're actually looking for it, you're tracking for it. One of the women that I interviewed for Happy for No Reason said that she likes to pretend that she's the Academy Awards committee. And her job every day is to give out 5 Academy Awards. So she's always on the lookout. She sees somebody doing a really wonderful act of kindness for somebody else, and she says, oh, that gets the kindest act of the day award. Or she sees just some beautiful, beautiful trees. She goes, oh, those get the most beautiful trees of the day award. So it doesn't matter what it is. She's just looking for what's great. That's the first step. And by the way, if you have kids, play that game with your kids, the Academy Awards game. Then the second step is that you want to savor the good for at least 20 seconds. Scientists say that it takes 20 seconds for the good to settle in deeply enough that it will start to create a new neural pathway. So we've got to actually savor that good. When it's a beautiful forest and trees, you don't just say, oh, there's a beautiful forest. You stand and you let it in for 20 seconds. If you see a great act of kindness, you walk over to the person and you say, you get my Academy Award for the kindest act of the day. So you're not just letting it go by you, but you're taking it and savoring and digesting it like you would maybe a delicious bite of dessert that you haven't, gotten to eat in a while, and you're just, oh my God, I'm savoring that. So that's the second step. And then the third step is to go for a 3-to-1 ratio. The negatives just happen. You don't want to beat yourself up for those. But when you do see them, then you go for 3 positives to help overpower that negative. So that seems pretty simple, but it really does work.
Yeah. I want to just talk about what you started with, because it actually blew my mind, that whole 80% of our thoughts are negative. That just in itself, if you're listening to this, it makes me think. I run this men's group, and I've had some guys that have talked about how they feel like there's actually something wrong with them because of how negative their thoughts are, but it's actually common. So they don't have some disorder, and they think they do. And then that also makes me think just about relationships in general. Like if a man and a woman are coming together, 80% of their thoughts are naturally negative, it's hard to survive. So this is so amazing. You know, we should be doing this Academy Award thing all
I
the
love
time.
that.
It's so much fun.
Can I tell you, since you brought up relationship and
Yeah.
you're here together, can I give you a simple practice that my husband and I have done
I would
that
love
has
it.
changed our relationship?
Hmm,
Yes.
So we've been together for 25 years.
Wow.
nice.
And we have, very, very loving relationship. And also it can get a little, we're very different in the way we come to life. And so about 4 years ago, we were on vacation in Hawaii, and we were there with some friends of ours who are a married couple that have been together 35 years. And they just have this most beautiful, fluid, loving relationship. And we said to them, okay, what's your secret? Thinking they were going to tell us some deeply profound thing. And they said, well, it's really, really works, but you're not going to do it. And I said, what do you mean we're not going to do it? And they said, no, you're going to not think it's going to work. And so you're not going to do it. And so we're not going to tell you unless you promise us that you're going to do it for 30 days. And so we said, okay, we promise you. So can I ask you guys to promise that you'll do it for 30 days? And then
Yes.
We
30 days
promise.
is our thing.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
we're good at 30 days.
30 days. Here we go.
Here we
All
go.
right. It's so simple. Every morning when you get up and every night before you go to sleep, you
Mhm.
tell each other, you play the appreciation game. You tell each other 3 things that you appreciate about each other.
Hmm,
And you take 20 seconds on each thing. So in other words, you're not just listing something off, but you're savoring it. I really appreciate how you listen to me and and then you say that one for 20 seconds so that you're savoring it and it's allowing your partner to savor it too. And then they're doing it back to you. So it's 1 minute in this direction with 3 things and 1 minute in the other direction with 3 things. Ideally, right when you wake up and right before you go to sleep. Now, I'm going to give you a pass on this. If you do it once a day, that still counts.
It would
thank you.
still do a lot if you did it once a day.
It-
That's so cool. I love that.
Thank you for
It
asking that.
changed our relationship. And
Wow.
we actually continue to do it. We don't do it every day still. That was 4 years ago, but we do it quite often. And especially when things start to get a little rocky, we then go right back to doing it. It's really, really amazing process.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, sometimes the simplest things are really the best.
Mm,
If you really do them, and that's the key thing, because it's so easy to read something or have somebody go, oh yeah, this is the thing. But that's
Right.
great that your friends actually made you promise to do it, because it is so simple, but like everything, if you don't do it, it doesn't work.
And speaking of like heart coherence and what puts us into heart coherence and all, we can feel it when it's there. In fact, we're going to do a little experiment right now. I've never done this before, but the fact that I've got the 2 of you together, I'm going to ask each of you to tell each other one thing that you appreciate about each other for 20 seconds, and then switch to the other for 20 seconds. And I want to notice how you feel, but also how we feel in the presence of appreciation, because we're all going to feel this, I guarantee you. So are you willing to do that? I've never asked anybody to do this, but let's do this as an experiment.
I appreciate how you make the most amazing food in the whole world.
Hey, you got to go on for 20 seconds about it.
Oh, I keep going?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
20
oh,
seconds.
You have to expound
Oh,
for
yeah,
20 seconds.
it's so me.
And then you, Leah, you need to be really taking it in, letting it in, okay?
Yeah, you put so much love into all the food. You can literally cook anything in the world. You've
Mhm.
spent so much time making sure that you're putting the healthiest ingredients. I know you're doing it because you want me to be healthy, and that means a lot to me. And
Oh, 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 I can feel that. And my heart is open up. And it was that extra little expanding on it and really being with it that made it go the extra mile on that. So thank you. That was beautiful. How do you feel, Leah, from hearing that?
Ah, it's so nice.
and that extra
Okay.
20 seconds allows you to kind of get a little deeper than just the surface level. which
That's
is-
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, your time to receive, Kyle.
Yeah.
I really love about you that you are so thoughtful, and you will genuinely try to figure out something that could be helpful to me. and maybe take some stress off me. Like you said that you would take Riz, that's our doggy, to go stay with our friend. And it's like I can genuinely tell that you in your mind, you tried to think of how could I take weight off of Leah's shoulders. And then you do it, and not begrudgingly, but happily. And
Oh,
it just means a lot that you think about how you can help me.
oh my goodness. Wow, that was beautiful. And how do you feel, Kyle?
Oh, that felt great. Yeah.
So, as an observer right now, I can tell you just by being a witness of the energy field of appreciation, how it spreads beyond the two of you by just doing it. So, thank you. I like that experiment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Cool too, because you feel noticed. It's like, oh yeah, you're actually noticing that I'm doing that.
Yeah.
That's great. I'll do more of it.
So should I do, so that's one technique, that's for the
Yeah.
mind, the award, think of the Academy Awards, 5 Academy Awards a day, savor it for 20 seconds and, go for a 3-to-1 ratio. That was the first technique. The second thing I just shared was the appreciation practice. If you're in a relationship or you can do it with your kids, and doing it for 20 seconds each thing, 3 appreciations back and forth. It's beautiful. So should I do one for the body?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're thinking
Yeah.
of that, those are all thoughts, and now what can we do for our bodies? I love practical techniques and actionable things. So that was
Great.
really great.
All right, so let me share with you one that you may not have ever heard. I hadn't heard it until I learned it from a Qigong master named Gilles Marin. And he said it's the fastest way to build serotonin
Mm.
in somebody. And serotonin is kind of the main happiness chemical. And I have been low in serotonin my whole life. I know that that's why I was depressed as a kid. So all you do is you go outside, and if you can't go outside for whatever reason, there's another way to do it, but you go outside and you face the sun. And if there's no sun, I'll tell you what you can do if there's no sun. But you face the sun, even if it's just coming through the clouds, you still face the sun and you close your eyes. Super important. You do it with your eyes closed. It's called a sunning meditation. With your eyes closed and the sun facing your eyes, you imagine the sun's rays coming in through your eyelids into the center of your head and lighting up your pineal gland.
Hmm.
And then allowing that light in the pineal gland, that warmth of the sun through your eyelids into the pineal gland to wash down your body. You do that for 2 minutes, twice a day. And within 1 week, you will have shifted your serotonin levels. It is actually quite miraculous, really. If somebody comes to me and says that the body is their challenge on this, that's the very first thing that I will encourage them to do, is to try the sunning meditation. So again, you just go outside, you face the sun for 2 minutes, you let it come in through your pineal gland, washing, imagining the light going through, warming up your whole body, and 2 minutes twice a day for a week. If you can't go outside, or there is no sun out, or it's raining or whatever, then you just look at nature, and with this time with your eyes open, just looking at, beautiful flowers or trees or whatever. Nature will also produce that serotonin effect, not as quickly as the sun will.
Yeah, that's amazing. I felt this like pull towards the sun, and I've been standing under it doing weird things, but now I'm excited to bring that into the practice. So, one thing I heard you speak about recently in your interview that I'd love for you to touch on, because I started practicing it last night after I was watching your interview, and I could feel shifts in my life, and that's Ho'oponopono.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So when we talk about the pillar of the heart,
Mm.
that's about opening the heart, and certainly what, the 30-day heart coherence challenge is so fantastic for that. I've used the heart coherence technique for years. It's one of my fast tracks to happiness for sure. And the other fast track to happiness, another fast track to happiness, is forgiveness. When we are holding on to something when it closes our hearts and we can't feel the juice of life flowing through us. So there are many, many forgiveness practices. My favorite is the Ho'oponopono practice. It's based in the Kahuna Hawaiian tradition, which is why the letters Ho'oponopono, Ho'oponopono. You never have to say it in order to do it. So don't worry if you
Thank
can't say it. And all you do is you imagine a situation or a person that you're still holding a grudge with, that you're still angry at. They don't need to even be alive. And you don't do this with the other person. You do this internally. This is for you. Forgiveness is for your benefit. It's not for the other person. And what I like to do is I like to put my hand over my heart. And I like to, and the process is to say these 4 phrases internally towards the person or situation that you would like to have greater forgiveness with. And they are simply, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you feel yourself sending those out towards the person or situation where you're challenged. And then I always believe that when there is some kind of lack of forgiveness somewhere, there's a part of that that is towards ourself. So then after doing it towards the other person or situation, you also do it towards yourself. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And then watch and see what magic happens in your life. I have done this many times and had magical healings happen that are beyond what you would imagine. So
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and I hear them say those words, and I've always been like, yeah, that practice is probably pretty cool. But last night, I actually, for some reason, hearing you talk about it and how it healed your relationship with your sister, it made me really want to try it. And when I was trying it, I felt like I was actually shifting the energy of the universe, because you really feel like you're changing these relationships that have such like dark energy, and it's just resolved.
it really does. Shall I tell the quick version of the story
Yeah.
with my sister?
Mhm.
Okay. So many years ago, about 15 years ago or so, my sister's 11, 12, almost 12 years older than I am. And so, we haven't been super close in our life, but we have a very loving family and we're close, and about 15 years ago, we had an argument, and I don't even remember what it's about, but it was like intense, and we stopped talking to each other. And this has never really happened before. And we weren't talking to each other for a number of months. And then one day we were moving our mother from our family home of 58 years into assisted living. And we were all gathering to move her into her new apartment. And I was so nervous because my sister was going to be there and we hadn't talked in months, and there was this friction. So I remember I came into the apartment last. I walked in and my whole family was there. I hugged everybody, and except my sister, who was off in the kitchen unpacking glasses, and she didn't acknowledge me and I didn't acknowledge her. And we went through the rest of the morning. This was a tiny little apartment. We went through the rest of the morning avoiding each other in the rooms that we were in, so that we didn't have to make eye contact. And it was so tense that by the end of the morning, I said, I got to take a break. And I decided to go down to my car. And on the way down to my car, I remembered Ho'oponopono. And I thought, I'm just going to do that and see what happens. So I sat in the car and I started sending to her, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And after a couple minutes of doing this, I had this huge, like, kind of breakthrough in my heart. My heart broke open, and I realized she wasn't mad at me for what had just happened a few months earlier, but it was a lifetime of stuff. And I saw what I had been doing. And I genuinely felt like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then I did some Ho'oponopono towards myself, also feeling compassion and love towards myself. I felt compassion for her and compassion towards myself. So I went back in after 10 minutes. And I went back in and I didn't say anything to anybody. And I just went over to a certain area and kept on unpacking. And a couple minutes after being back, my sister walked over to me and she said, Marci, let's go into mom's closet and unpack her clothes together. And I'm like, whoa, she just came over to me and said that. So we went into my mom's closet. We unpacked her clothes. It was lovely. We went to lunch a little later. She is sitting across from me and she says, here, Marci, have my baked potato. I know you like these more than I do. I'm like, what just happened? I pulled my brother aside. I said, what did you say to her while I was gone? He said, Marci, nobody said anything. We have no idea what's just happened. Well, that was the beginning of a totally different energy that I had in my relationship with my sister. And I tell you, thank God that happened then, because 9 months later, our mother passed away unexpectedly. And we found ourselves back in that same closet, packing up my mom's clothes. And I cannot imagine what that would have been like had we still hung on to that friction and that anger and that lack of forgiveness. So now is the time to do it. It doesn't matter whose fault anything is. It doesn't mean when you forgive somebody, it doesn't mean you necessarily let them back into your life. You know, it's for yourself that you forgive them. It's so that you can have peace and open-heartedness in the rest of your life. It doesn't mean you're condoning what happened, anything. It just means that you are letting go of that negative energy in your heart.
Yeah. That's so nice. And I'm just thinking about all the reasons why somebody might say there are reasons not to be happy. And you could always pick anything, whether it's the state of the world or what your family is like to be around. And I think sometimes too, people almost take a pride in being like an empath, which I am not sure if that's a great idea, to be walking around sort of saying that you have no way to not absorb everybody's feelings. It would be a really difficult way to live life, because there's always so much going on around us. So I would love to just talk about, I love you use the word emotional immune system. And how can we develop that, the ability, just like we do with colds and viruses?
Yeah.
Healthy.
I really, really thank you for asking that question, because it's really I think such an important thing. We have so much negativity everywhere. All you have to do is turn on the news. All you have to do is walk out on the street. There's going to be negativity. That's the reality. And in the same way that there's, we can be around people who have colds all day long. If you're around somebody with a cold, what are you going to do? You're going to build your own immune system so you don't catch the cold or catch the viruses or the germs of people around you. You build your own emotional immune system. You build your own physical immune system. It's the same thing that we need to do in our emotional lives. We may be around people that are negative, or certainly, we live in a world that's negative. We've got to build our emotional immunity. And that means doing all these things that we talk about for happiness. Because when you are strong emotionally, you don't catch other people's emotions. We catch the emotions of the people around us like we catch their colds. So we build that immune system. And a great example I can give is, a while back, I had the honor of being in a small group meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And, the Dalai Lama's had some pretty yucky things happen to him in his life. And he's seen some pretty difficult things. And so we were in this small group, and yet he's so incredibly joyful, right? So we're in this small group, and there's maybe 20 people, and there's one guy there that's incredibly negative. And this was before the Dalai Lama walked in. And we were all thinking, oh my God, how is this going to go over? This guy is such a drag. He's so negative. And His Holiness walks in, and he is so filled with light and love and joy that you can't help but get a smile on your face. And what we all noticed was that negative guy just turned into the most beautiful, loving person. And here's what I've seen: the stronger energy wins. So he was negative, but the Dalai Lama's positivity and love was strong enough that won off in the room. And so what we want to do is build our own emotional immune system so that we're the energy that other people catch. rather than us catching their negativity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you, Marci, for just being a beacon of light. You really are like truly a heart-centered person. And just through our conversation before this interview, we could tell, that you're an amazing person. So we want to thank you for coming on. And if there's any way our collaborative could support you, we would love to do that. Is there any way we can support you?
Oh, how wonderful. Well, I always am happy to have people. We have a wonderful program, a Year of Miracles program that is a year-long program. And we have 4,000 people from 87 countries helping each other live more miraculous lives. And I think the more the merrier. I believe that it is our birthright to live miraculous lives. It's what we're on the planet to do. And that we're here to also do it as a collective to help the world be a better place. We don't do this in a limited way. We do this, with each other. So if anybody's interested in we have a free gift for you you can find out what your miracle superpower is. You can just go to youryearofmiracles.com and find out all about that. So that to me is a way to support helping create more miraculous life on the planet. And also you can also check out happyfornoreason.com, where I've got all kinds of resources and free tools for learning to be happier unconditionally. So
Thank you so much. We would love if you would come back with us again. There would be so much more to talk about in the realm of miracles that we could sit here forever. And
I would be absolutely delighted. And I want to say, people often ask me if it's selfish to want to be happier. Is it selfish? This 30-day heart coherence challenge, what's it doing for the world? You're focusing on yourself, but what about the world? And my answer is, it's the least selfish thing you can do. Because when you shift your energy, when you go more into heart rhythm coherence, when you have greater happiness in your life, you are doing the best thing you can do to impact the world. And there's a beautiful Chinese proverb that I love to share about this. And it goes like this. It says, when there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. When there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. And my prayer and my wish for every single one of us here today, and I think that it's not an accident that we're here. We're all here by divine appointment to help uplift ourselves and humanity. And so my prayer and my wish for each of us is that we know the light in our own souls, and through that we help create a better world of peace.
I love that so much. And it is such a gift. Anybody who's spent time around a miserable person knows that if you have a happy person in your family, my grandmother was that person that was just pure joy. It affects the whole entire family.
That's right.
Spreads out. I love, you had some research about, I think it affects 5 people out.
5 people out. That's exactly right. That you have, I am so impressed. You guys have done such great research on this. It's fantastic. Very, very rare as well. So wonderful. Yeah, our happiness, they say, affects 5 people away from us that we don't even know. So your being happier affects your neighbors, sons, school teachers, husband. It's like it's the ripple effect. And so let's do it. Let's create greater joy on this planet of ours.
All right, everybody, go buy Marci's book and let's all be happy for no reason.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Marci. We're sending
Thank
love
you.
to everybody.
This interview is part of our 30-day Heart Coherence Challenge.
During these challenges, we send you a heart coherence meditation every day for 30 days, each designed to bring powerful healing benefits.
Throughout the event, we also release incredible interviews with guest speakers who inspire and uplift, like the one you're listening to right now.
If you would like to join a future challenge, go to www.heartcoherencecollaborative.com and register now. The link is in the description.
We're sending you love and hope you join us for the next challenge. We love you.